YouTube, we're back. It's been a long time. It's been a month, but I've been a bit busy. Let me off. But anyway, whoever's watching, whoever's returned, welcome. The third video, and today we're listening to TYRON by Slowthai. And this channel isn't just a Slowthai appreciation channel. I do listen to other music, but Slowthai, obviously, one of my favourites. So, yeah, we're going to listen to TYRON. I'll tell you what, I've had a mental day, okay? So I was hoping I pre-ordered the vinyl. Dead excited, little signed copy as well, love it. And I was waiting for the vinyl to come all day so I could listen to the vinyl and then do a reaction to that. It hasn't come. I mean, I let Slowthai off, makes quality music, but I'm a bit fuming that the vinyl hasn't come, so I waited all day. But anyway, we're here now. Listen to it on Spotify. So, TYRON, the much anticipated sophomore album from Slowthai. I can't wait. I'm really excited to see what direction Slowthai is going to go in with this one. I've read a few write-ups about the album already. I think it was Dice wrote a really good bit, and they said that the sort of first half of the album is kind of your classic braggadocious, in-your-face, aggressive Slowthai, and the second half of the album is a little bit more introspective and a deeper look into who Slowthai really is as a person. And they said that hopefully by the end of the album you'll be able to understand who Slowthai is as a human and as a person. And I'm really hoping that I get that from this album. The teasers, as you know, if you watched my previous reaction to MAZZA, I absolutely loved it. And also the other cuts off the album that have been released so far have also been phenomenal. NHS, Feel Away, and you got some big names on the album too. So A$AP Rocky obviously on MAZZA, then you got James Blake, Mount Kimby, Skepta obviously on Cancel that also came out, which was a tune, and I loved that one. It was just a classic Slowthai banger. It was really good. I'm really excited to see what Dominic Fike and Denzel Curry do on a track together. Two artists who are fantastic at what they do, and they always gel really well on a song. Dominic Fike's feature that springs to mind was his feature on Kevin Abstract's song Peach, which is one of my favourite songs ever. I absolutely love that song. But the way that he kind of gelled into the song, and it sounded great. Obviously, if you watch my last reaction, you'll know that I drew some similarities between Slowthai and Brockhampton. The direction that Slowthai's music was going in, it was reminiscent of some kind of Brockhampton type music. So I'm sort of seeing all of these artists collaborate together in this kind of universe, and it's really exciting as a fan. I'm just going to get into it. We're going to listen to it together, and I'm going to let you know my thoughts, and I'm going to react to it, and I'm really, really excited. I can't wait, so let's get into it. We're starting off with 45 Smoke. Alright. Sounding almost like a little Kenny Beats sample chop. Oi, now we're talking. That bass is hard. That's so hard. Yes, mate. Slowthai, he never misses. He never misses. Aye, this is so hard. Feel that tension. Feel that tension. Production on this is nice, it's nice. It's very grimy, it's hard, man, it's hard. Who's that? It's flowing on the beat though, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. There we go, man. That's the first song, 45 Smoke. There were some bars in there, but as you know, I explained on a couple of my old videos that sometimes I don't always listen to the bars. I kind of first listen is usually me just getting the energy and getting the feel of the song and just sussing, is this a hit? Do I like this one? I could hear that there were some bars in there, but I didn't pick them out. On re-listens, I'm going to get them. I can see that, Slowthai was coming through with his classic style. An interesting intro, I think. It was the structure of it was quite interesting. It was catchy, and that the 45 Smoke and the 40 that is quite catchy. That is quite repetitive. That will be stuck in my head. I'm not sure who. I think there was a feature on it. or unless it was Slowthai putting on some quite eccentric patois, but I think it was a feature on it. It sounded quite good, sounded a little bit buried in the mix to me, but they flowed on the beat well. But before that came in, the way that the bass came in and built up, and then the drums came in, and then they all came together, I don't know whether that might wear off on me slightly. You know, I kind of think maybe that was a slightly obvious thing to do, so I'm hoping that I don't get sick of that in the future, but I can't think like that. I've got to enjoy the music. Anyway, next one we're getting into is Cancelled featuring Skepta. I'm going to re-listen to this again. I have already heard it and I thought it was good. What I did note from it is that it almost felt more like a Skepta song. It was interesting because Slowthai seemed to play a almost bit part role on his own song, and I think that's quite difficult to pull off. So maybe that's my only critique of it, but let's give it a little listen anyway, get back into it.
I'm a vampire with the fangs on you. Now you're dripping blood. How you gonna cancel me? 20 awards on the mantelpiece. Pyramid stage at Glastonbury. Girls in the crowd with their hands on me.
Hard, mate. Skepta, he's always hard, he's always hard. The sub bass and the 808s are fire now. There we go. That was cancelled. Yeah, after listening to it again, Skepta plays a main role, and Skepta's performance is really great, and I think it's a good song, and it does feel more like a Skepta song. That Skepta bar as well, super sus, super off key. I don't know music theory that well, but I think is relating to sometimes with chords you have like a D sus something, and I'm assuming that that's what that meant. If so, it's a bar, mate. That is a bar, you know. And the little refrain of the like, and you're dripping blood, like that's sick. Like that sounds so good, and it sounds so cool and sinister, you know, which is the vibe of kind of what's going on so far. Next up on the track list is MAZZA. We're not going to listen to that again because I have already reacted to that, and obviously I loved it. It's a tune, and we know it's a tune, and there's a full in-depth discussion of it on my YouTube channel. So next, fourth on the track list, we've got Vex. Vex is probably the word to describe how I was feeling today. My vinyl didn't come, I'm not salty about it. Anyway, Vex, here we go. Oh mate, this sounds like some old Slowthai. I tell you what, I'm all over this. This sounds like throwback to the sort of jiggle era. Oh mate, that was overwhelming. Right. This is the one. I think this is the one. Mate. Oh, mate, it's so hard. He is flowing, mate. He is flowing. Right. Oh, that was Vex. That one was hard, mate. That one was so hard. That was some real like old school throwback Slowthai. I loved that one. Again, kind of transferred that vibe that we've seen at the start of the album. It was quite sinister. He was kind of just talking about stuff that annoys him, stuff that, you know, winds him up, makes him a bit mad, a bit angry, a bit aggressive. And when he came on for sort of the third part of the song, he was kind of singing in this sort of twisted and demented way, and he sounded crazy, sounded a bit like deranged, and it was good, and it really worked on the sort of vibe of the song. That's potentially been my favourite so far. So anyway, we're going to get on to the next one. We're going to get on to What, W-O-T. I mean, you know, it's just a cool way to spell it, innit? I mean, grammar is really out the window. Sounds like some like 3-6 Mafia. That's mad, mate. Go get it from the drum. Waved off from, got skunk in my seat in a rage, I give you your mom. Oi, that is hard. This one's sick, man. This is sick. Let's go into the next one to see what happens. Yeah, here we go. It's very 3-6 Mafia, the way that those samples are chopped up and pitched down. I like that. Piano on this is hard as well. It's like he's walking on it, you know. It's hard. It's cold. So there we are. That is Dead. That is the 6th track on the record finished, and I think my thoughts on it. It's consistently good. Like, the record's been really good, and I really like the 3-6 Mafia-esque sort of style on that vocal sample. And I'm liking how Ty's working on the beats. He sounds cold. He sounds really good. My only potential criticism at the moment is it seems like on the songs that aren't the hits, so, you know, on So Cancelled and MAZZA are kind of the ones I deem, you know, the hits, and the singles that have been released so far. On the tracks that aren't those, so, you know, some of the deeper cuts, it seems like he's struggling to come up with a chorus, and it's finding that difficult common ground, because obviously you don't need to have a catchy refrain to make a song good. My only criticism of the record so far is that maybe some of the songs are lacking a bit of a chorus and a bit of a structure and an idea. You know, they're bangers and they're hard and the production's great, but you'd expect that from Slowthai. I mean, he's an established artist in the game. So that's going to be my only criticism so far. But I'm really enjoying them. And if you're not worried about, you know, a song sticking in your head, or you're not worried about him writing the most incredibly, you know, creative lyrics and, you know, intricate wordplay, then so far it's been a great album. It's been a really good album. So we're on to the 7th track, which is the last track of the first disc, or kind of the first half, which is the bangers. It's called Play With Fire. I don't know if there'll be any sort of N-dubs sample in this, which I really hope not, because they can stay in 2009 or whatever it was. This one sounds good. This one sounds alright, you know. There we go. Thankfully, there was no N-dubs reference in that. Actually, that was the best song, I think, on the record so far. Anyway, out of them, that was fantastic. That was really, really good. The guitars, or the sort of, you know, plucked stringed instrument, whatever it was, sounded really great. It sounded quite poignant. This song acts as a really good transitional period in the album, because it still had the aggressive production of the, you know, the former half of the album, the kind of bangers, and this one sort of fostered more of that emotional tone and poignancy, like I said, flowing into the, you know, latter half of the album that's going to be slightly more introspective. And I think that what I've seen from the first half of the album is that I'm drawing a lot of similarities between this and A$AP Rocky's Testing. What Slowthai is doing here is it's slightly more experimental than Nothing Great About Britain. It seems far less inspired than the first record, because I think that the first record he was, you know, boiling over with rage and anger at the state of this country at the moment. This album might just be lacking that real, like, you know, that real kind of oomph, that real, like, urge, and that real, like, anger kind of a summoned from within that's been brewing, you know, throughout his whole life, which the first album had. That's always going to be expected on, you know, a second album. But what I think this album makes up for so far is the fact that the production seems cleaner, he's secured bigger features, and the sound is more versatile. The latter half of the album is going to prove that. The fact that he, you know, he can make more than just a hardcore banger. He can make those more introspective cuts. So I think I really like that one, and it reminded me of sort of the purity on Testing, like I was drawing the comparison with the guitars being played, and just the way that you know, on Purity, like that Lauryn Hill sample was sort of pitched down. Anyway, we're getting into the latter half of the album. We're halfway through, really enjoying it so far.
Hey, long roads, tumble down this black hole, stuck in Sunday League, but I'm on levels with Ronaldo.
I tell you what, that was fantastic. This album was stated that it was going to be more introspective, this half of it, and he proved that on that song. That was fantastic. He really delved into some of the struggles that he's had going on, you know, and you know, admitting some failures and just proving that he tried his best. You know, obviously there's been some controversy around his name, and, you know, obviously the thing with the NME Awards, but yeah, that was amazing. The production was beautiful. The guitars on it were so great. There was a sort of vocal sample sort of that repeated and was for the chorus, and it was stunning. It sounded so good. It kind of sounded like a really great Gorillaz song. That and Playing With Fire have been two of the standouts to me so far. Anyway, into the next one. Focus is the 9th track on the record.
Brothers on that prison shit, I should have been in prison, but I'm different. Never listen to the shit that they be on. Focus on some other shit. I miss my brothers, I miss my family as well. Everybody else can go and fuck themselves.
There we go. That was Focus. That was another good track. I enjoyed that one. I'm gonna double check. I think I heard a reference to Kenny, and I want to see if Kenny Beats had anything to do with that. He did. And James Blake. Yeah, I can hear that in it. I thought that I heard a bit of Kenny Beats in that because it sounded like something that, funny enough, something that he might have done with Dominic Fike. It sounded like similar production, the way the sample was utilised and the whole song, acted cohesively. Sounded like something that he did on that Dominic Fike record. I really liked that. That was really good. The drumming was excellent. Testament to Kenny Beats. I'm assuming that he would have been responsible for that. The guy's a great drummer. The guy's a great producer. I love Kenny Beats, man. James Blake being involved with that as well is interesting. I think maybe I could draw parallels between that and Assume Form, James Blake's most recent album. Just with the way that the drums are programmed and the sort of pitched up vocal looped through the song. Anyway, the next track is Terms with Dominic Fike, as I just mentioned, and Denzel Curry. Slowthai and Denzel Curry have previously linked up they did a track called Psycho, which is such a banger. As we know, Slowthai has proven now, Denzel Curry, very versatile artist. So given that this comes on the more emotional half of the album, I'm really excited to see what Denzel Curry has to this. There we are. That one was Terms. That was easily Slowthai's poppiest song. I was really surprised to hear such a poppy song on a Slowthai record, but there we are. This is the artistic evolution that we're here for. I thought that was really good. I really liked that. Dominic Fike sounded really good. I was disappointed that Denzel Curry didn't have more of an impact on the song. I would have really have liked him to have been on the song. The song sounded like something that would have been on Taboo. The intro to the song and the first chorus, it sounded really poppy. And then Slowthai came in with a really, quick, rapid, aggressive flow. And it sounded exactly like what Denzel Curry would have done on Taboo. So disappointed to not hear him with a proper verse. I think that his contribution was one of these 3-6 Mafia-esque, chopped up, pitched down vocals. Nonetheless, a good track, but yeah, maybe disappointed that Denzel Curry didn't have more of a prominent role, but you can't ask for everything. This next one is Push featuring Deb Never. Deb Never is an artist that I've been sleeping on for too long. She has collaborated with Brockhampton, and obviously, as you know, I drew some parallels between Slowthai and Brockhampton, so really nice to see her come up here too.
Sit back and watch the rain, breathe out before tomorrow. I cry from a younger, hard times make me stronger. Any drinks make me drunk, hard drugs make me fonder. Selling drugs get you richer, that's a raw flush on the river. Feeling stranded got me feeling feeble. You're never there when I really need you. Always land on my feet like a cat out of tree. What you come with the sound when I'm gritting my teeth.
That was one of Slowthai's best songs. That honestly was one of his best songs. That was his most honest song ever. He really laid down exactly how he is mentally and how everyone is mentally. I feel like on this record, Slowthai's saying things that will resonate with everybody, but people sometimes don't have the bollocks to say it. It talks about his struggle in life and substance abuse as well. Just the real thoughts in his head, and the chorus and refrain from Deb Never was beautiful. The two gelled so well on the track. So the next two rather, are NHS and Feel Away, which I've heard, but I'm going to listen to again because I absolutely love them.
Say less, why you stressed? Thinking what's next gonna make you depressed? All the best shit's got a life without circumstance, boxing without another stance, country with no coat of arms.
There we are. That was NHS. One of my favourite Slowthai songs. I absolutely love that song. When it came out originally, I felt it was a really sort of Brockhampton-esque song. The way that the vocals were manipulated and that chorus, and just the way that the beat was. What the song showcases is Slowthai coming up with all of these juxtapositions of life and the kind of yin-yang idea that there's no light without darkness and there's no darkness without light. And I think that it's a really, really clever song. It's sort of showing with the name NHS as well, it kind of, just symbolises to me that it's a song about caring about people. You know, obviously the NHS in Britain, you know, free healthcare, it's great, until it gets privatised, and then it'll be a bit peak. But yeah, I think the sentiment of the song is Slowthai further showcasing that, you know, everyone's human and everyone has a little bit of darkness in the light, you know, not everyone's perfect. And I think that he's analysed that, and you know, that self-awareness is really evident on this album. And the next track on the album is Feel Away with James Blake and Matt Kimby. Obviously, I absolutely love this song. This is also one of the singles, and I've had this on repeat until the album's come out. But we'll give it another listen, and yeah, I'll let you know what I think. I love this song, man. I love that song so much, and that's such a good song. I love James Blake and Mount Kimby on that song, and that's such a legendary collaboration. Mount Kimby have produced, you know, some of the best music over the last 10 years or so in that kind of you know, post dubstep, atmospheric, ethereal sort of sound of electronic music, same as what, you know, James Blake did at the you know, former part of his career. I think that, you know, Feel Away showcases that sort of sound and adds a modern twist to it. What Feel Away is to me is that it's Slowthai again showcasing his insecurities and his vulnerabilities in a relationship, and I think that it further cements the theme of this latter half of the album, that Slowthai is really laying everything out on the table, you know, and just this self-awareness is just showing how human he is. And I know that it spoke about the write-up to this, you know, that I read said about how it would make us understand him more as a human, and I think that it's definitely doing that. Because, you know, it's sometimes you have these sort of mega stars like an artist like Slowthai, and you think that everything's perfect. You think that, you know, life's sweet and content, and they can't have any worries because they've got loads of money and they've got loads of fans and they've probably got, you know, girls flocking after them. But it just proves that, you know, even the biggest stars, you know, they've all got their worries, they've all got their doubts, they've all got stuff that keeps them up at night, that gets them down. And I think this is a for that reason, this is a legendary piece of music, because having that out there and putting that out to the public, an artist of Slowthai's magnitude, is massive. And I know for sure that this album will resonate with people across the country, across the world, you know, because it's general themes, you know, of insecurity, of worry, and of feeling you're not good enough. And it's great, and he's doing a really, really good job of that on this. The last track, final track of the album, is called ADHD, and yeah, let's see what this one entails. Obviously, on Nothing Great About Britain, the closer was a track called Northampton's Child. That was a really emotional cut, really sort of delved into a summary of Slowthai's life up till that point. So it'll be interesting to see how he finishes this album off, given that this is his second album and at a slightly different place in his life.
Sitting in the pit, only me and myself. I can't deal with the screams, only screaming at myself. Trying to protect, so I project. Deflect, and he call it self-defense. Yo, okay. No, I just wanted to say, bro, I love you, man, and I hope you're doing well, and I miss you every day you're not around. Voice shot is wet, I can't feel myself, my complexity, feelings dead for me, everyone weaponry, I'm a melon sweet, I got tendencies, touch me tenderly, heaven let me in.
Wow, that was a lot to unpack in that closer, man. I think that was the perfect closer to the album, but up until the halfway point, I was thinking this is the perfect album closer, because it encapsulates everything that I feel that this album's achieved, you know, so far. And it was Slowthai really just laying down that, you know, his own habits are somewhat self-destructive, and feeling alone, and you know, probably a reaction of, you know, lockdown and the state of the world at the moment, and that kind of sense of loneliness. It was a really nice expression of you know, genuine feeling, and I think that fills in with the sentiment that I felt of the rest of the album, that this is an album, and that was a song particularly, that will resonate with a lot of people who, you know, are struggling at the moment, because life isn't easy, you know. And then it showed him phoning up his mate and telling him, you know, oh man, I miss you, and you know, I love you, love having you around, and that was great as well, because just highlighting that it's cool to phone your mate sometimes and just tell them that you miss them, because people should do that more. People get too in their own heads about stuff, and you think that, oh, you know, I don't want to phone my mate because I might not look cool, or, you know, he might be like, what are you talking about, mate? Stop being a bitch. But tell your mates you love them. Just do it, because you don't want there to ever be a point where you can't. Do it more, man. Remind everyone that everyone's loved. But then, so that was what I was thinking. The closing sentiment was, but then he just flipped, and he projected these vocals that were the most aggressive on this album, and he sounded so worked up and angry, and all it made me think is, oh my god, like this is a kind of like what you see at an end of a movie to hype you up for the next film. So that feels like, to me, he didn't want to end on ADHD. He didn't want to end on that song and say, like, this is it, this is done. He added another bit to say, this album's done, but this is what's going to happen in the next album. Similar to what J. Cole did on KOD with 1985, the intro to The Fall Off. That kind of teasing of the next album is really clever, and it keeps fans gripped. And, you know, I was getting to the end of this album, and you know, even thinking about it, I was just like, wow, that's a great album, you know, well done. But now I'm like, shit, like, the third album's coming. Man, that was good. That was a good ending. That was good. I enjoyed that. Right, so there we have it. That is TYRON. Listened, long overdue. Oh God, I've been waiting so long to listen to it, but I finally listened to it. And my overall thoughts, I really liked it. It was really good. It was a really good follow-up to Nothing Great About Britain, which obviously, as you know, I absolutely love. One of my favourite albums. I think, though, the only thing maybe with TYRON is that maybe you could argue that it's an album of two halves. Now, I think that Slowthai's definitely got better bangers than some of the ones that we've seen on this album. I think that MAZZA is a really quality tune, and as I said on my reaction to MAZZA, that irrespective of the quality of MAZZA, securing that A$AP Rocky feature is huge and massive for Slowthai's, you know, profile. However, I do think that the former half of the album was a little bit weak in terms of, you know, the quality that I expect from Slowthai. So maybe slightly underwhelmed, but maybe they'll grow on me. I do think there were some really interesting ideas though, and I think that the parallels drawn between that and Testing are also really interesting. Although I do think that out of the songs I hadn't heard, Playing With Fire, sorry, I actually call it Playing With Fire, I actually am thinking of the N-dubs. Dappy had nothing to do with this song. I think that Play With Fire was a really good tune, and I really like that one, and I think that was probably my favourite of the former half of the album. The second half of the album was fantastic. There was, maybe the weakest song was Focus. However, there was some of Slowthai's best material on that second half of the album. And I think what this album is suffering with, for me on a first listen, is the fact that the singles released were, in my opinion, the best songs. But the singles were so good that they're just slightly diminishing the quality, in my mind, of the rest of the album. So when you have songs like NHS and Feel Away, which are by far Slowthai's best songs, some of the best songs to come out of the UK alone in years, it always makes it difficult. But I think that what Slowthai achieved on the second half of the album is that he really laid bare his emotions and how he feels, and the feelings that you wouldn't expect a high profile artist of his caliber to feel. He felt genuine human emotions and he expressed that. And as I said, that will resonate far and wide with people, and I think that that's really important in order to establish an emotional connection, you know, between the listener and the record. I think that there's some really interesting song concepts in the second half of the album, and overall I really liked it. Fantastic. And even though the vinyl hasn't come today, which I'm still fuming at, but there we are, I can't wait for it to come, and I am sure it's going to get a lot of listens. In comparison of this between Nothing Great About Britain, I think that I've got to say that Nothing Great About Britain remains the superior album. But I don't think that's Slowthai's fault, because what Nothing Great About Britain had was that first album, and the first album is all of the emotions that the artist has been feeling, you know, throughout their whole life. He had that just sort of surge of emotion and anger and rage built up inside him from years of dealing with a government that basically neglects impoverished people. And that's the upbringing that he's had, and that anger against and rebellion and the sort of the themes of, you know, the punk aesthetic that was showcased on that first album, I don't think translated to the second album. But that's not his fault, because he's in a better place. And you wouldn't want him to fabricate any sort of emotion. I mean, realistically, he wrote that first album coming from a position where he was getting a bit of recognition, but he was still attached to Northampton and that life that he lived and that rough upbringing and the difficult and challenging upbringing. But now he's in a place where, you know, he's not content, which he evidenced, but he's in a superior position, you know, financially, and he lives a different life. He's mixing with the stars. I mean, he's got features with A$AP Rocky. He's basically best mates with Skepta. So I wouldn't have wanted him to have done another Nothing Great About Britain, because he's a different person and he's in a different place. However, I do think that what both albums achieved, Nothing Great About Britain was still superior, but nonetheless, TYRON is still a fantastic album, and further evidence that Slowthai is truly one of the most exciting UK artists to come out of the scene in years, and hopefully will continue to make fascinating, brilliant, eclectic, versatile music. And I'm really excited to see where he goes next from here. So there we are. That's the end of the video. That is my reaction and review to TYRON. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop it a like, or if you didn't like it, drop it a dislike. I don't mind. I'm not worried about numbers, man. I'm just, you know, hoping everyone has a good time and enjoys listening to some good music and enjoys creating a discussion about it. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section. You know, let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you didn't like it. I want to hear all your feedback. And if you want to see more content, which will be more consistent, I do promise you, I'm a little bit free now, you know, drop a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And we'll listen to some more albums together. I'll give some more chats about music. I've got loads of really great and exciting content coming up, so I'd really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching.